American football in Finland.
The voice in your ears and the face on your screen. I'm Perfect Pervis, and this is American Football in Finland. Today, I'm joined by my co-hosts, Coach Q and Chris Green. What's going on, fellas?
What up? What up?
What's up?
Good to have you guys back. The AFF podcast is available everywhere you listen to your podcast, and you can see us visually here on YouTube. Wherever you listen or watch, be sure to subscribe, follow, and like us. And anyone who listens or watches but doesn't hit that button, we know you're a hater, but that's okay. We're going to get on with the show anyways. All right, it's first down where we take a chance to talk about whatever's going on in our life. Q, what's new with you?
Man, not much, man. Not much. Same old, same old. Enjoying this Florida summer. That's it.
How hot is it out there? Because we got like plus 30 out here. So
90s. It's like
Ooh.
90s every day, man. 90s and up every day. 90s and rain.
90s and rain. That's how it gets out here too in the summer. I've had some crazy like my daughter does track, and I guess I'm gonna talk about my thing now. You go next, Chris. Sorry. But my daughter does track and it's like hot during the day, and I go to pick her up for track at like 4:30, and then it's been raining all summer, like right at 4:00 for like 10 minutes. And you know how it is after it rains, if it's still warm, it's just hotter after it rains. And so, like, we're going to track, and it's sweltering out there, and but she's loving it. I mean, she's sweating her little butt off, but I'm like, she might be able to make it in Texas one day. Maybe one day we take her to Texas in the summer. We ain't done that yet. Maybe one day I take her to Texas in the summer, let her get her some of that humidity, see what it's really about. But it's about as high as it's been in Finland so far too. Like we had 2 weeks of like good summer. Then we had a week of regular. It's not that warm, and then it came back this last week, and now it's kind of still a little bit warm. So it's been a longer summer than we usually have in Finland. Usually, I get about a week and a half tops, and then it's plus 17, plus 16, which is not hot at all. But now it's been in the steady 20s at least, so I can at least say it's warm. Chris, what's going on with you, man?
I'm still on a high from yesterday. Well, when we're recording this on the Monday. So on the Sunday, I'm sure you know that England are playing in the Euros at the moment. I'm talking about football, so soccer for you guys. But we were losing to Slovakia 1-0, and then Jude Bellingham scored a goal in the 94th minute, and then we scored like the first minute of extra time to go to the next round. So it was crazy. It was a crazy atmosphere. I was at my cricket club in the pub, and it was just everyone was going nuts. But yeah, still on a bit of a high from that. I still can't believe it happened. Like, I thought we were down and out, and that was it. But yeah, we're still in it.
You know what? I'm good. I love like talking to you guys because I get to take some of these conversations and I want to run with it. Because I had a similar conversation with another guy from the UK, and I just want to ask you, because I understand that soccer or real football is the most popular sport in the world, hands down. It has the history. And, obviously being American, I have a certain view on sports. But can I ask you, what is it about the actual sport that gets you so emotionally involved? Like I know a lot of people that like football, it has nothing to do with football. So I understand why they're emotionally involved. But with soccer, outside of like it being your country or your local club team, what do you think like gets people like really entangled with the sport?
I don't know. I mean, over here in the UK, they call it the beautiful game. That's what it's known as over here. It's called the beautiful game. I'm not a massive football fan per se. Yeah. I'm just like I'm really proud of my country, and I support my country in any sport whatsoever. So I just get hyped up when my country are playing. So for me, it's a country thing.
Okay.
I am interested in football. Like I follow a team in that, but I'm not like religious. Like I'm not going to watch it every week like I would with NFL. Like I watch the NFL and college football like every week. But with football here in the UK, I don't really watch it as often. If that makes sense. But it's the same with like rugby as well. Like
but that's crazy. Like, don't y'all like have football every time you go to a pub? don't they have football on? So if you ever go anywhere, you're watching football.
Yeah,
it's always on.
Yeah, you're watching it when you're out. But like, I won't sit down and religiously I have to watch Manchester United every week. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't have to watch the game every week. I'll keep track of the scores and stuff. I mean, my dad usually says, "Oh, did you see the game or whatever? Or did you see the score? Did you see this happen or something?" So I kind of like have a conversation with my dad about it. But I'm not really like religious. Like, I don't really know who's signing for who. Whereas like with the NFL, I'm like, "Oh, geez, these guys are signing for this team now. What the hell's going on?"
So you're one of those football guys. You're one of those football guys who, when you decide American football is your thing, you put away childish things like soccer. Like that. Like one thing I've learned in my travels and living in Europe is like most like American football players do not like soccer. I call it soccer because most of them like they end up like hating that sport once they start liking American football. And I'm like, I don't think that was the intention. Like, you don't have to hate,
I don't hate it. I'm just not that.
But you put it away.
Involved in it, you know? I'm emotionally involved with it because it's my country, and every year is always heartbreak because we always do well and then we just never win. Like, it's always just, I don't know why we bother. We're all like saying, well, you know, the famous phrase is coming home and that, but he ain't been home since 1966.
I've heard about that. Coming home, but you haven't.
We're still living in 1966. That was the last time we won a major tournament. That's crazy.
That's tough. What about you, Q? What about you, Q? What's your exposure to the real football? Do you watch it or see a lot of it or keep up?
Well, I mean, not now. I mean, I don't really keep up with it that much unless it's certain teams playing, and that's only because of like people like are fans of certain teams. So if like their team loses or something, then I like reach out and be like, "Oh, I know you hurt right now. Like, you know, keep up with every game." But I really don't. But I played when I was little. You know what I'm saying? Like I got some old trophies and old pictures. Younger, it's just growing up in Alabama where I was born. High schools and stuff like that didn't really have. You know, a lot of the schools didn't really have soccer teams, so. You know, but it's a cool sport. I ain't mad at it. I think it take a lot of skill. So many people watch it though, is because it's easy to understand. It's like easy to understand. Like you can watch it and understand what's going on, rather than like American football or like any other, some sports like that. But it's dope though. I like the fans, man. I just want to go to one of the games one time.
You gotta go. You gotta go. I went to
the singing and that is a great atmosphere. Yeah, it's pretty good.
I went to a small, like, second level team when I was in Brazil one time, and it was nuts the whole time. It was similar to going to an NFL game, in my opinion. Like, you could be watching the game technically, but when you're there, I don't know how anybody's watching the game. There's so much going on. Everyone's yelling. There's all this like camaraderie. And every time any little thing happens, I mean, I think I saw someone jog onto the field and the place went crazy. I didn't know who was jogging on the field, but I was excited. I got swept up in it. And like, that's kind of how that sport is. I mean, it is the most popular sport in the world, but it's interesting to go on this little, journey with you guys today, talking about sports that aren't really our bag. So let's get into the show now. Calling all you football players. Are you ready to shine this midsummer? Join us at the AFF Nordic Challenge, June 18th through 21st in Helsinki. Showcase your skills to USA college coaches, train with some of the top coaches in Europe, and compete in one-on-ones. Get insider tips at exclusive recruiting sessions and seize international opportunities. You can even win big with camp-sponsored prizes. Space is limited, so register now. All right. Are you looking for a community? Looking for a brotherhood? Join Ballers Members. Ballers Members is a private group to service athletes. Ballers Members are athletes coming together as men in brotherhood environment. If brotherhood is something you're looking for, DM Ballers Internationals at BallersINT on Instagram. So now we're going to get to our players of the week, which have been announced on social media earlier this week. But of course, we got to explain our picks in depth. And let's jump first into the offensive player of the week, Theo Landers, quarterback from the Wasa Royals. I'm just going to throw out his stats real quick, even though stats aren't the determination of why we pick these players, but sometimes they do align with our picks. Theo was, interestingly, 4 for 9 passing for 71 yards and 1 touchdown, but he had 14 rushing attempts for 193 yards and 2 touchdowns. And I really think his rushing is one reason that we chose him to be one of the MVPs of this game. And I guess Q has left, so I'm going to leave it to you, Chris, to tell us a little bit about what you thought about Theo Landers. I don't like to call him Leo, but what do you think about Theo Landers' performance this week?
I think he dominated that game with his legs. Like you can see from the stat line, wasn't great in the passing kind of aspect of the game. He threw 1 touchdown to Alpha, but he wasn't really the passing force. But they didn't really need it because they ran so well with him.
They only threw 9 passes. Like, that's crazy.
That's what I mean. So and he only had 13 rushing attempts, I think you said. So 193 yards and 13 rushing attempts is special. It doesn't matter who you are. Sometimes it was scrambles. Sometimes it was called plays, the actual runs where he has number called. So I like that Wasa are using him that way because I know when I saw him in Bristol when he was playing at the Bullets, we like to use his legs. And I think moving forward, that's the way they should go. They should use him in the run game more because I think that's one of their keys to success. I think in any game for them to win, I think it's through Landers' legs. But as we say with the Royals, it's literally just Swarovski, Landers, and Alpha. There's nothing else with that team. But Landers paid off. He ran through that defense. I mean, we know the defense isn't great, but he still had to get the yards, and he did well. So he's thoroughly deserving of the player of the week, I think.
Yeah. And just to throw this out there, I don't know how much we're going to talk about that game, but he completed those 4 passes to the one guy who could catch him, and that was Alpha Jallo. Like, that's the only person who caught any of those passes from him. What I saw from Theo was I saw a guy who figured out what his team can and cannot do to help him. Because I really think a lot of those times when he was scrambling, if Alpha Jallo wasn't open, he wasn't trying to see anybody else drop a pass that he could throw. And he decided, I got these 2 legs that go pretty fast. I'm going to go. And he had a lot of scrambles where, honestly, you could see he wanted to throw the ball. But there was not an available option that he wanted to get the ball to. So he ran, and we really got to see that he can run really well. And he actually took off this game a lot, had a lot of scrambles. I think his average was 14.8 a carry, and that's with the design runs in there as well. So it was really good to see him scrambling and not losing the ball in that sense. Like, I felt like sometimes if you're passing to guys that you don't think are going to catch it, that's a wasted play. And he really didn't waste a lot of plays this game. It says he only had 9 attempts. He didn't drop back only 9 times. He probably dropped back about 22 times easily, 23 times. But when he dropped back and there wasn't, anyone besides Alpha open, he ran with the ball, which is really good on him and his decision-making. And you kind of can see that he's learning what can and cannot work for his team. And we all know that those 3 guys need to be the key for that offense. So it's really good to see him kind of click that in his head this week. What about you, Q? What is something that you saw from Theo this week?
It looked like Theo Landers watched the game film from last year and just said, I'm going to do that. pretty much what it looked like. Like, all of a sudden now we get to see him run. You know what I'm saying? Like, he should have been doing this. He should have been giving his team a chance. I don't know if it was him or the offense coordinator, but we seen that he can run the ball. He was effective. We see another gear in him. Maybe he always could do this. He just never had the opportunity. Or now I just think he notices that he has to turn it on for his team to help him out. And it was a great, I'd say display of his feet. Definitely, even though the passing game wasn't all the way there, wasn't there, but he did what he needed to do to win the game. I like what I seen. You know what I'm saying? It's nice to put somebody for the Royals up for offensive player of the week. So shout out to him. Theo, we want to see more of that. You know what I'm saying? It looked nice. And hopefully he can do it again, and maybe they can steal a win or something for somebody else. But he definitely deserves, offensive player of the week.
All right. And then if we're moving on to defensive player of the week, we have Carlton Marshall, linebacker from the Kuopio Steelers. Again, stats aren't the main reason, but I'm going to talk about him anyways. He had 10 total tackles, 6 solo tackles, and apparently had an interception in this game as well. I don't remember the interception. That's what kind of throws me off a little bit. Do you guys remember the interception? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's just me then. That's just me. I just don't remember the interception, but he had it, so obviously he did a lot. Q, what are your thoughts on him and what he did in this game?
Hey man, Carson Marshall, shout out to him. Like y'all always say, the backers, man. That's where it started at. That's where it ended at. For that defense, for Kuopio, he's bigger than I think people even realize. A lot of tackles, which means he's active. I don't really think he needs another backer in there with him. I would just bring another DB because he can handle it. He can run from sideline to sideline. He reads great. He reads the pass great. He tackles efficiently and he's aggressive. He's always around. That's what you want for a backer because that's just not just plays. That's a presence. You know what I'm saying? When you got a linebacker like that who's always around the ball, he's always around the tackle. Kuopio found a linebacker that they needed. You know what I'm saying? Like they always bring in good linebackers, but here we go again with Mr. Marshall. He's showing out. That's the kind of play you want from your linebacker, though. You want him to own that area, the front seven. He's the leader up there. You can tell. He played a big part in his win, a big part. Roos had some plays here and there, but this dude was always around the ball. He was always there on third downs. He hitting. You know what I'm saying? I like linebackers like that, man. Marshall, hey, good job. Definitely good job on that, the way he played. But that leader stuff, you got to be born with that. And I think he got it. And I think he shows it with his play. I see him talking, but he's out there actually making plays and balling. And that's what the rest of the defense want to see. And that's what you want out of your import, too. So shout out to Mr. Marshall, man, for Defensive Player of the Week.
And Chris, what were your thoughts on Marshall's play this week?
Similar to Q, I mean, he was just a force to be reckoned with. I mean, all you got to do is look at what Ethan Greenfield did in the game, which was not a lot. So you've got this guy in Carlton Marshall who's a great linebacker, a great tackler, part of that real good front seven that we've seen in Kuopio. They really stuffed the run as a whole unit, and he was there at the forefront, cleaning up tackles, making solo tackles, just being there on key downs and key situations. And he had the pick as well, which is great for a linebacker. You don't see that often, get linebackers getting picked. So, yeah, he did a great job for his team. And I feel like he's probably going to be emerge as more of a leader for that defense as well, which is good to see. And like you said, the Steelers, they're great at signing linebackers and defensive linemen. I don't know where they find them, but they do a great job at getting them in and getting the right guys that fit their system and the right guys that they need for them to help them be victorious. And he definitely did that because Ethan Greenfield got bottled up. So, and he was a big factor in that as the reason to why Ethan was unproductive in this game for Ethan standards.
Yeah. I mean, throwing a lot of shade at Ethan Greenfield in this. I mean, it's a little tough. I
mean, it's not shade. It's not shade to Ethan. Like, it's props. It's flowers to Marshall because he did a great job. He did a great job against him.
He won the battle.
He won the battle. He won the battle. They get to play each other again. Ethan, maybe he steps up next time. Maybe Ethan wins the matchup. We'll see.
Okay. All right. Ethan's my guy,
Yeah, no shade. I really like Ethan. I speak highly of him. I think he's a great player, but I feel like in this matchup, Marshall just was better.
Okay.
All right. That's part of the reason why he got bottled up.
So I'm not going to say a lot about what Marshall did in this game because you guys have kind of already did that. But what I am going to do is I'm going to apologize to Carlton Marshall because I feel like we haven't talked about him, and it's already week 6. And I know I pay attention to, what names we're constantly talking about. And we've talked about the Steelers defense and how good it's been this year. And we haven't really used his name very much. And that's on us mostly for not talking about it on the podcast. Because offline, we have mentioned this linebacker a lot and what he's been able to do. It just hasn't came up in the podcast. Then this week, he was able to have a performance that we're able to give him MVP and we can, give him all his flowers. So I just want to say, sorry it took us so long, Marshall, to talk about you, but we still got you. And we do intend on somebody from the Steelers sending us some of those shirts y'all talking about y'all have over there. So because Q said he's ready to wear one. Me and Chris are willing to wear one too. If y'all send it our way, let us know. But that's Defensive Player of the Week, Carlton Marshall. He did a great job. Congratulations, man. And we'll move on. Let's do helmet stickers. This again is talking about key player performances from last week. We put the stats aside, but we do use them sometimes just so people understand what we're liking from performances. Again, we can name a couple players. We give 1, 2, or 3 helmet stickers depending on the performance. That way we can kind of highlight a wide variety of player performances. I'm going to start this one off with 3 stickers for a candidate that this guy, in my opinion, he could have been the MVP of the week, but because of, how things went, he wasn't. And that is Loya Crusaders wide receiver, Oskari Suonimi. He had 13 receptions, 185 yards, 2 touchdowns. That boy was bad. Yeah. That's all I remember. It's number 4, right? Yep. He was making plays. I was thinking, okay, Crusaders might pull this off with a receiver that we haven't even seen all year because he's out here making plays, catching on top of people, getting open, making difficult catches, getting a lot of deep end zone touchdown catches, just making plays that we normally would see from Leonardo. Is that the other guy's name? Sophocles? Mm-hmm. That's expecting to see, but obviously he has his own situation. And I'll tell you the truth, before the season, I heard about Oskari Suonimi, that he was supposed to be, this up-and-coming receiver, but I didn't think nothing of it. I thought it was all talk. I'm sorry. He might be one of the top finished receivers in the next couple of years that we're going to be talking about more often if he continues to play like this every game. Because in this game, I mean, obviously the Royals don't have the best secondary, but he was slicing up the entire secondary, not just the corner that he was playing against. He did do him in twice for 2 big plays, and I won't speak on that. But what he did,
really, PI'd on one of them as well.
Yeah, Pervis got tackled and still caught the ball. But what he did was he really stood out that, he's here. He's going to be a force to be reckoned with in the coming weeks. And what I find most interesting is he's not going to be a surprise anymore. Like, they're going to be targeting him now. So it'll be interesting to see how he plays with the spotlight. I think this game, he might have been under the radar. Maybe they hadn't thought he was going to be that guy. Normally if they would have thought that, I think they would have put alpha on him a lot earlier or something and said, hey, we're going to lock him down. But he kind of emerged in this game. But still, 3 stars from me for him just coming out and showing that, hey, he's here now. We're going to have to learn his name. What about you, Chris? Anybody that stood out to you this week?
I'm going to say a guy that we've not talked about a huge amount this year from the Butchers because he's not been as productive as he was last year. But this game he showed out, and that's Lucas Erla. He had 8 catches for 152 and 2 TDs. Nice to see him back in the end zone as well and doing what he does, showing great speed out there. I think he caught one kind of screen pass that he took through everyone straight through to the end zone, which was a great play from him, showing his straight line speed and the ability to get through defenders and through those cracks in the defense. And yeah, he just did a great job. I just want to give him his flowers because we haven't seen it much from him this year. And it's a shame because I was expecting him to step out. And I know that they've had a bit of problems with protection of the offensive line. Gwynner not playing as well as what he was last year. But we know the Butchers started slow last year and then got better as the year went on. So maybe this is the start of the turning point where they're getting their receivers the ball because Sepinen had a great game as well. So getting those 2 key receivers the ball and letting them boys go to work and do well. So Lucas, I think he gets 2 stickers from me only because the defense is terrible what he was playing against. But
I won't talk on that. But
if it was a better defense, then I'd maybe give him 3. But 2 stickers, yeah, definitely.
Q, what about you? Anybody you want to give stickers to? I know it's hard for you to give out any of them, but if you could give out a couple.
You know what? I'm going to say two guys, actually, and they both
Okay.
D linemen. Both D linemen. Jamarcus Henderson is one, and then Malik, number 95 for the Roosters.
Okay.
And the reason I chose these two, well, for one, Jamarcus Henderson, if you watch the first half of the Kuopio game, you realize how much impact he had on that game at the beginning. Because for one, that was a great move by Kuopio. We'll talk about it later, but I said if you get pressure up the middle, they're gonna have problems, and that's exactly what Kuopio did. They gave you pressure up the middle, and it was a problem. So he single-handedly set the tone of the game, and that's why he get 3 stickers from me, because he set the tone, like 100% set the tone for how the defense was going to play and how Kuopio was going to show up in this game. And it's the same thing for Malik on the other side for the Helsinki Roosters, number 95. He had a lot of stops in the run game. Also in the passing game that I was real impressed by, because I was like, man, they need this type of play if they're going to be in this game. And he had a lot of great plays that I've seen that were just, get off block plays, make the tackle plays, that stall drives for Kuopio. And he was just a presence at one point in that game too. So shout out to both of those D linemen, Malik of the Helsinki Roosters and Jamarcus Henderson of Kuopio Steelers. So I'm going to give y'all helmet stickers. It's hard for me to do, but those two guys will get them.
Chris, did you have any other stickers you wanted to give out before I give out my long list?
There's one more guy, and that's Austin Brock for me. He had 6 catches for 118.
Yeah.
No touchdowns, but some of the catches he made were ridiculous because Josh Taylor wasn't performing at his best. There was a lot of underthrown, a lot of overthrown balls. Austin Brock was having to dive for them with defenders over him. Like he just did a great job at getting free, getting open in the space, and then adjusting to badly thrown balls because the balls weren't as good as what we're accustomed to see. And that was a mixture of things to do with pressure and, Taylor having to get out of the pocket quite often because of the pressure he was getting. But I feel like Austin Brock really helped his man out by getting into space and making some circus catches. So, yeah, Austin Brock. And I'm going to give him 3 stickers because some of the catches he made were ridiculous.
Yeah, and he could have had like maybe 200 or 300 yards if some of the catches hadn't got called back a few times.
Right, well. Exactly, yeah. So he was done by penalties.
And the picks, too. And then he could have had him on pick, too.
Yeah, he had a lot of good stats. I'm gonna throw out a couple of names. I'm gonna go linebacker core today. Okay, I think that's what I'm looking at. This guy stood out to me. Linebacker from Helsinki Roosters, fresh off the boat. Right, he arrived on Saturday, I think, and then he was in the game or something like that, or he arrived a couple days before. Matthew Barrett, number 44. He made an immediate impact playing linebacker for the Roosters. Like we were talking about it offline. You could see that, he's active. He was getting in there. Honestly, if it wasn't for the fact that Josh Taylor is fast as hell, he probably would have had a couple sacks in that game easily. There was a lot of plays where I was like, man, if he was half a step quicker, which, I mean, Taylor's pretty fast. But he was still putting a lot of pressure up there. And you saw him going from different angles. He also had pretty good side-to-side speed. He was able to make a couple tackles downfield. I think stat-wise, he had 4 total tackles. So Matthew Barrett, welcome to Finland. Good to have you. I'm excited to see him play for the Roosters. Kind of amped up the middle part of that defense. So that's really good to see. Another linebacker I want to talk about, Alvin Reels, Helsinki Roosters. He gets 2 stickers from me. He had 6 total tackles, and it said he had half a sack. He needs to check his stats because I seen him get a solo sack. Like he went in there and got the sack by himself. So I don't know how he got half a sack on the stats. Alvin, if you're listening, go check your stats, man. They do y'all like that sometime on the defense. I don't know where they be getting these half sacks from. But if there was anybody that was actually playing for the Wolverines, it was number 5, Alvin Reels. He was probably the only player I saw like play, making plays, getting to the ball. He was doing things, even though it was, by himself, so it didn't really help in the grand scheme of the score. I saw him out there working, making plays by himself in the first quarter and a half because I didn't watch after that. Y'all know I don't watch bad football. But when the game could have still went either way, he played really good in this game, so just want to give him a couple flowers. And last guy is another linebacker. This linebacker is from Loyal Crusaders, Monte Williams. Number 8. I don't know much about him. All I know is I kept seeing number 8 everywhere on the field. And for me, that's all I need to know. If you're everywhere on the field, that means you're running, you're hustling. He had 5 total tackles. Obviously, they couldn't get the win, but he was the main reason why they did stay in that game for a large part and why Tom Suwosti didn't have the huge day that he normally has in the run game. It's because number 8 was there. He was a presence, and he was making tackles. So those are the helmet stickers for this week. I thought it was pretty good. So I think we can move on now.
Are you a fan of the American Football in Finland podcast? Show your support in style. Rock our logo proudly on hoodies, t-shirts, beanies, and snapbacks, all designed for fans like you. Join us in celebrating American football in Finland. Grab your gear and be a part of the AFF community.
It is time for win or loss. We all know the results of last week's games, so we're not going to rehash that, but let's explain which team won or lost their games. Should we do the good game first, or we should do that last? Yeah, we should do that last, right? We can do these games in whatever order we want to. So let's do the easy game first. Helsinki Wolverines versus Porvoo Butchers. Who won or who lost this game?
Porvoo Butchers won fair and square, as I expected. That's why I can't believe y'all gave out helmet stickers for some of those players in that game. But anyway. A whole bunch of people we haven't heard from all season. No, I'm just playing. Porvoo won, man. I expected them to win. I expected them to have a high scoring game, definitely against the Wolverines. And seeing those names that we haven't seen, Mikko Seppänen, them putting up those yards and stuff like that. We expect that against the Wolverines. So yeah, I mean, it wasn't like it was a hard match or anything like that. Porvoo did what they were supposed to do, so they got to win. Can't take it from them.
What about you, Chris? What do you win or loss, and what are your thoughts?
I mean, Porvoo won, didn't they? They were just the better team. That Wolverines defense was terrible. Rasmus Lalo, I'm sorry, bro, awful, mate. Like 5 picks, 36 attempts, 11 completions, bro. I think it's time to go back to receiver. That's all I'm gonna say. Yeah, the Butchers did what they were supposed to do, like Q said. They won the game easy, with no problem. Guys putting up numbers, Seppänen, Erla, both over a buck yards. So, yeah, Gwinner, 382 passing yards, did what he needed to do. Didn't have much in the run game, but they didn't need to because they passed the ball so well. And defensive backs, Helsinki were terrible. They were so bad. So, I mean, yeah, Porvoo won this game. It's a nice, easy one. I don't think we need to divulge too much into it anymore. But yeah, Porvoo.
Yeah, I agree. I think Porvoo won, but I do want to talk about what Q was saying about we seeing players that we ain't seen all year. All of a sudden, they got all these stats. This is what, again, I watched the first quarter and then maybe one drive. It was 28-0 when I turned the TV off. I was like, okay, I've seen enough. This is pretty boring. My first question about this game is, who did the Wolverines have at cornerback who looked like he was an outside linebacker trying to guard Lucas Erla? What was that about? Luke was just running verticals. And he caught, I seen him catch 2 touchdowns, but he just ran straight. Or maybe he didn't score a touchdown on one of them, but I know he just ran straight. And this number 28, like, I don't know why I'm out here. Like, he turned his head around like, coaching, what y'all expect? The dude is faster than me. What am I supposed to do? And he built like a linebacker. And he out there playing corner. I'm like, why are we doing this? So, kudos, like what Q said. Lucas had a great game. He better. I mean, if I was running out there against a linebacker, running straight fades, I'd have a good game too. But that's just bad. That's just bad. And then like the whole Rasmus throwing like 5 picks. What are we doing, guys? What are we doing? And if you hadn't have told me that, Chris, I never would have knew. Chris sent it in the group chat that he threw 5 picks. I don't know when he threw the 5 picks because I only watched a quarter and a half. I think I seen him throw 1 pick in that time, but obviously it got bad as the game went on. And this was one of those games where they really did a good job stat padding. But it was interesting to watch that, again, I thought Alvin Reels played really good defensively. I think he did a lot to, hemorrhage the bleeding as much as he could. But other than that, the Butchers did what they were supposed to do. And we all know that this is how it's supposed to happen. But those stats are really going to come into fruition at the end of the season. We start looking at people's stats. I just want people to remember this game. Like, put up 63 against the Wolverines. Gwinner threw 6 touchdowns against the Wolverines. You know, Miko Sepinen had three touchdowns against the Wolverines. Lucas Erla's breakout game of the season probably is going to be against the Wolverines. So let's just remember that as the season goes and people start saying, well, you didn't say this about this and this and this. We ain't going to forget this. We are not going to forget this. So moving on to the next game, let's go Loya Crusaders, Wasa Royals. Win or loss, Chris, you take this one first. What do you got?
I am going to say the Crusaders lost this game.
I'm glad you said it.
And the reason why I'm going to say this is because they were in control of this game. They took chances in the first half, and they were up at halftime. The problem was they weren't capitalizing on all the Royals' mistakes in the first half, because the Royals, they weren't scoring when they were supposed to score. They had opportunities, and they didn't. So the Crusaders should have been up by more at halftime. But they let the Royals hang around. If you let them hang around, you let Alpha hang around, he's going to game break at some point, and he did. He returned a kick for a touchdown. So at some point, Alpha is going to get you, and that's what happened. They let them stick around, and Alpha got them. They should have won. I feel like they played better. Like the passing game of Wasa was terrible. I don't feel like their defense didn't tackle very well. The Crusaders' defense, they didn't tackle very well. They were missing lots of tackles, but they had the ability to win this game, and it's one of the reasons why I picked them to win, because I felt like offensively they could have controlled this game, and they had opportunities to control the game, and they just didn't. And I feel like they let Wasa, like I said, Wasa stick around, and if you let Wasa stick around, they're going to find a way to beat you, and they did. So, yeah, I think the Crusaders definitely lost this game.
That makes sense to me, the way you said it. What about you, Q? Who do you think won or lost it?
Even though I picked Vasa to win this game, I still think the Crusaders lost the game, though. Same with Chris. You know, it's it's weird. It's like if you were watching the game, you realize the Crusaders are just like really like one stop. You know what I'm saying? Like one stop away, maybe 1 or 2 stops away from like being leading in the game. So, coming back and winning the game, it was just a weird game to watch because I was like, man, like at a point in time, you're like, okay, maybe it's about to shift, and then they score, and then next thing you know, the very next play is a bomb for a touchdown. And I'm like, whoo, come on, Crusaders. Like, you got to, and Alpha being Alpha, he gonna hit you. I tell people all the time, if he's a return to kick the ball out of bounds every single time, I don't even care if you got to throw it out of bounds. You can't kick him the ball, man. He hurt you, but Crusaders had plenty of chances to win the game. I think they just needed 1 or 2 stops, and they would have pulled it off. But Wasa ended up pulling it off. But, yeah, I think the Crusaders lost that game, though. Like, I think they should have won that.
Well, I agree with both of y'all that the Crusaders lost the game. I remember watching the game. I watched it after I already know who was going to win because I wanted to know if I needed to watch the full game. And I remember I checked in at halftime, and I think the Crusaders were winning like 14-12 or something. I was like, oh, man, I got to watch this full game later. So when I go to watch the full game, I'm like, well, obviously the Royals are just, screwing the pooch. That's got to be what's happening. But that wasn't the case. The Crusaders they had opportunities, like you both said, and it was mostly about them not seizing those opportunities. Even looking at the game, I never felt like the Crusaders were the better team. And I think that's why the Royals won the game, because they were the better team in this game. But they didn't play like the better team. They played like, hey, if y'all want to win, Crusaders, we'll let you have it. And the Crusaders like, nah, we're good. We're gonna take this L and just stay on this path. And of course, Alpha was like, hey, I'm trying to win no matter what. It still scares me every time he gets the ball and starts running, because you can watch the defenders. They don't know what to do when he has the ball. Like, you don't know what angles to take. You don't know if you should jog or you should sprint, because he literally turns and will turn a 360 to run left or right, and you don't know when he's going to do it. But in this game, honestly, Crusaders, this was your opportunity to get that upset that might give you a chance for either a playoff spot or maybe for sure not coming in last, or maybe mixing up the standings somehow. And they didn't have what it takes. And no blame to their star players. Like, I feel like Bryce Messina played really good. I feel like Moses Harris played a hell of a game. Obviously, Oscar Suanemi did a really good job of the receiving, but it just, for some reason, when they needed to like take advantage of the Royals' mistakes, they just weren't able to in this one.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, it was a decent game too. That's what was really crazy, is that it wasn't as bad of a game as I thought it was going to be. I really thought it was going to be, back and forth scoring. And Chris, I know you're the stat guy, but I looked at the stats a little bit earlier. It looked like they pretty much had the opposite side of stats. The Royals had 300 yards rushing, while the Crusaders had like 278 yards passing. So they were doing two totally different things to move the ball. And both of them were kind of missing the other one, even though the Crusaders had 90-something yards rushing. Like, Moses Harris had a decent game because he had a lot of carries. They knew he was going to run the ball, and he still was effective. But for some reason, when they needed it, they weren't able to, like, capitalize. So, good game by both teams, in my opinion, but the Crusaders missed an opportunity this week. So, let's get to the real game of the week. Kuopio Steelers versus Roosters. And obviously, I got to let Chris go first on this one before we hear what Q got to say about it. Win or loss, Chris? What are you thinking?
Steelers won.
Okay.
I'll tell you why the Steelers won. They were more productive at crucial times in the game than the Roosters were. Josh Taylor wasn't great through the air. We know he was under a lot of pressure and a lot of duress from that Roosters defense, and he was scrambling for his life. He only completed 9 passes. And
Gosh, that's bad.
He didn't throw a touchdown, but he had 1 pick. So he helped them win this game with his legs. He had 3 rushing touchdowns and 94 yards rushing. So that was their run game. I feel like the Steelers are one running back away of being a real dominant force. Yeah. If they fill that hole, then that's going to really help them in the longevity of this league and get into that ball, because at the moment, Josh Taylor's having to do too much. But he is being effective at the moment. But there's times where he's not going to be effective. He can't do that every game. There's no way he can run for 100 yards every game. It's not going to happen. So someone else has either got to take the responsibility of the run game, or they got to trust the guy, or they got to sign someone else. Because right now,
or they can let Josh Taylor lead the league in rushing, because he up there, ain't he? Don't he have like the most rushing touchdowns in the league right now?
He's up there, yeah. I'll check in a minute when Q's doing his thing, but
yeah,
he's definitely up there with rushing touchdowns. That's for sure. And the Steelers were just a better team on the day. I feel like they were more productive at key points in the game. The Roosters had their chances. Definitely had their chances. They played good football, but I still think the Steelers were the slightly better team on the day, which is why they were better, and that's why I feel like they won this game.
What about you, Q? Win or loss? Who do you think won or lost this one?
I'm going to say the Roosters lost this game.
I'm glad you did.
I'm going to say the Roosters lost this game. And the reason why is because exactly the points y'all just made. You had the worst game that you could possibly have from the best quarterback in the league, and you still couldn't beat him. Still couldn't beat him in the quarter. He had the worst game that you – I haven't checked his college stats, but I'm pretty sure this might have probably been his worst game of his life. Probably the worst game of his life. You can see it all over his face. He was frustrated. That due to the Roosters defense, the new linebacker, he was all over everywhere. You know what I mean? Like, it was a test for both teams. It was a test of will, not just to see what your team could do. It was a test of will. Like, at first I thought it was going to be a shout out. You guys were more spot on saying it was going to be a close game, and it was for a good little minute. And like I said, previous episode, it comes down to the quarterback play. It's going to come down to quarterback play. Defenses are going to be defenses. They're going to make plays exactly how this game was going. The Roosters just could not finish drives. They couldn't finish drives. So Greenfield getting the ball the way he got it, moving around a little bit. It were spurts sometimes where it looked like he was about to get going, and then something happened in the passing game that just shut it down. So, but the Roosters had ample times to take the lead and to really do something major in this game, and they just were either just the biggest thing I think of going there. The biggest thing is the fumble on the 1 yard line.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking about. Is like I'm looking at it right now. I want to see what their red zone like stats were because that was.
So you gave the running back the ball. You gave the running back the ball a few times on his drive, and then you get down to the 1 yard line, and now you put your inexperienced quarterback under the center in a crucial play like this. Something I personally would not do. Me personally. Now, if you give me Brandon Connett, you give me a veteran quarterback, somebody who I know been in this situation a lot of times, hey, go ahead for it. We going with it. But in that case, I'm not doing that, especially when I have the running back that I have. Let the running back run the ball in. It's simple as that. Don't put your quarterback in a position that he's not normally in during the game anyway. He doesn't take snaps under the center, so why would you put him under the center this time? So that was the one thing. The second thing was they went totally opposite of what you're supposed to do against Josh Taylor. Even though he still had a bad game, they still gave him the running ability. This is the main thing I said. You got to blitz him from the outside. Make him step up in the pocket and throw the ball. Now, if he wants to scramble in between where the linemen are, okay, you can do that. But rushing up the middle and letting him get on the run is not going to help you because he can run. You know what I'm saying? Okay, yeah, you stopped him in the passing game, but you didn't in the running game. You know what I'm saying? Like, so it was like I feel like the Roosters lost this game simply because their quarterback didn't make the plays they needed at the times they needed, and Kuopio's quarterback did. Simple as that. Roosters still lost that game because it wasn't a blowout from the Kuopio side, and like I said, Josh Taylor didn't have the greatest game. He really didn't have the greatest game. This is when you're supposed to beat teams like Kuopio because you can probably guarantee he's not going to have another game like that this season. He's just not. You know what I mean? A guy like that, he's probably going to bounce back this next game, throw with 400. Like, it just don't happen with quarterbacks like that. But anyway, yeah, Roosters lost this game because I feel like they had ample time to win it. If you watch the game, you see it was never out of reach. It was never out of reach. It could go any way at any time, all the way down, I would say to the wire, but all the way to the fourth quarter, it could have went any way. But then Josh Taylor took over and made a play for his team, and the other quarterback, Ambrose Young. This is the growing pains that I said the Roosters are going to have to go through. Is when you're playing with a younger quarterback. Yes, Ambrose didn't have a horrible game, but he had horrible turnovers at horrible points in the game to have them, and it just sucked. You know what I'm saying, watching it. But, yeah, Roosters, you guys had a chance to win this game.
I think he did have a horrible game. He threw 3 picks.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm saying,
and he fumbled the ball on the one.
But I'm saying horrible in the fact of like he had a horrible enough game to where they was out of it is what I mean. Like,
Yeah,
he didn't have a great game where he was putting them in situations, but like the once they went down by 10 or whatever it was, I knew he had to throw more than what they normally would want him to do. And anytime he's throwing the ball that much, and you're pretty much trying to hit seam routes, out routes. It's so easy to read this offense. I hate saying that, but it's so easy to read. You're not running real zone reads. Real zone reads is you holding it in there. You're not doing that. So you automatically give away that you're passing as soon as he says hike. He does this fake handoff, like it's not even a real handoff. But anyway,
do you know the funny thing? Do you know the funny thing? I feel like you're repeating yourself from last week when we did the preview show. You even said, don't let this guy out of the pocket. Don't blitz him up the middle. Blitz him from the outside. Keep him in the pocket. That's the key to the success. And they didn't do it. And you said as well, quarterback play. He's going to have a good game, and he didn't. So, right, it's almost like we watch film and we know what we're talking about.
Yeah, gosh, this man, Coach Q, say something before the game, and then after the game, you can either confirm or deny what he said, and that's what happened, bro. We can confirm everything that you just said.
If you just watch film, it ain't hard to do. You just watch film, you see what teams can and can't do. That's just the arrogance of some coaches and some organizations. Is this? Nah, I'm gonna do it my way. And like, why? Why do you have to do it your way? You can look at film and see that, hey, this This right here does not work against him.
It's an ego thing, I think. I
It's
think
gotta
because
be.
they didn't think of it. Nah, we can't do that because we didn't think of it. So yeah, we're gonna try and do it our way, but we didn't think of it, so we're not gonna do that.
It's gotta be because you're not gonna get Kuopio in that position anymore.
Yeah,
you're not gonna face them next time, and his quarterback has the game he has. You know what I'm saying? And you know, like you said, I wanted to say that. Like we said last week, also, Kuopio is a running back away from being ridiculous.
I said
ridiculous.
it.
Like if they had a running back right now, man, come on. Man. But anyway, yeah,
I agree, and I'm gonna throw in my little 2 cents. I agree with what Q said. I think the Roosters lost this game, and again, it was so close. There was all these opportunities, and I just went and looked back over the stats because they kind of verify a couple of things for me. One thing that we talked about offline was penalties. Roosters had 17 penalties, 100 yards, and that's not even a lot of yards in my opinion, but it's a lot of penalties, which means a lot of times it was, okay, we need to stop here. Oh, we're going to give them an extra 5. Now they got a first down. Now their drive is going. Like, they were untimely penalties throughout the game where drives kept going, drives got stopped because you're doing stuff that, and again, if you have 17 penalties for 100 yards, these aren't huge penalties. These are mental penalties, small things.
Undisciplined penalties.
Undisciplined.
Stuff like that. Yeah.
You know, the 5 and the 10 yard stuff. So that let us know that out of these two teams, one team came with the focus of, hey, when it comes down to it, the Steelers were going to win the game. You know, like we said, Josh Taylor didn't have a great game, but he made the plays when you needed him to make the plays. The Roosters, they didn't make the plays when you needed them to make the plays. Another stat I wanted to go to is I couldn't find it on the stats for some reason, was the red zone. You know, you got the fumble. That's one. There was at least 2 or 3 other times where they're like around the 20, 25 or something like that, where they go for it on 4th down instead of, you know, trying to get a field goal or something and get points. And you look at their 4th down percentage, they're 0 for 6. 3rd down, they're 2 for 9, I think, something like that. And go back to Ambrose interceptions, a lot of those are on those 3rd and 4th down plays because a play gets called. And again, I'm not in the room. I don't know who's called. I don't know what's the decision making going on, but a play gets called. He looks, no one's open, and he just chucks it. One of the interceptions was before. One of his interceptions was before half, so you know I can write that one off. But the other 2, he throws it into double coverage because there's nobody open. It's 4th down. This is you, instead of you trying to do a long field goal or get a offsides or something and manufacture the yards, we're just gonna call a deep play on 4th and 9. I think it was 4th and 9, right?
Yeah.
In that situation. And he throws this double coverage, and we're like, yeah, that's a dumb play, but where else is he gonna do? What else is he gonna do with it? That's the only option he was given, was I have this one route, and there's another route on the other side which is just as covered, and I have no other outlets to get the ball to. So he was put in a situation where the only thing that could have happened was your receiver makes a miraculous play. And in those situations, they didn't make miraculous plays for him. And you saw that, you know, when he had an open receiver, he's able to get them the ball. That's his skill set. That they put him in a situation where, like what you said before, Q, is if you put it on the quarterback, he's not going to be able to get it done for you guys this year. He's not at that level to do that. And that's what they did. A lot of times in 3rd or 4th down, it's like, what are you doing? Why are you putting it on him? And that's why I think that the Roosters really lost the game, because I felt like offensively, they just didn't have nothing for the Steelers. Like, it didn't seem like they had an idea of, okay, when we get in this situation, this is what we're going to do. It seemed like every time we got to 3rd or 4th down, they're just like, okay, this is on the call sheet. Let's see what happens. And you can't win a game against a good team like that. And that's why the Roosters went into it is more of a let's hope something works out instead of we know we're going to do this. And when a game is close like that, the team that knows what they're doing will always win. And we all know when it comes down to it, Josh Taylor can run the ball. If it comes down to it and the offense isn't working, he can manufacture yards with his legs, and he knows how to do that. We can't say the same for the other quarterback, which means now it's on the team, the coaches, other players to step up. And for the Roosters, nobody did offensively. Defensively, they played a hell of a game. Shout out to Julian Bell.
Yeah.
I didn't get to talk about Julian Bell earlier, but Julian Bell was out there. I mean, he's running to the ball. every play. And I'm looking at his body language. He's like, where is everybody else? Why am I the only one out here? And again, no disrespect to their defense. I think their defense played well enough to win this game. But offensively, they didn't come up with anything. I think Ethan Greenfield, he was held in check. And I said before this game, I was like, one thing that people haven't seen is Ethan Greenfield's speed. He's very fast. He gets to the outside. Steelers defense is fast as hell because he was still getting there. And when he was getting there, number 27, number 2, and then there was another linebacker I think was always there. There was 3 guys from the Steelers there every time he got to that edge, meaning they had just as much speed as he did, which again meant the Roosters needed to go another route, and they just did not have another option outside of getting him the ball and putting it all on Ambrose as a quarterback.
Yeah.
What's interesting? I know you said about the red zone stat. So I was a bit nerdy and I went through the drive chart just then, so you might have seen me looking down for a bit.
Okay.
They were actually only in the red zone twice, the Roosters.
Were they 0 for 2?
No, they were 1 for 2. So one was the fumble, one was a touchdown to Bryce Nunnally.
That means the other times
they got within sort of like the 30-yard line.
That's what I was gonna say. It must have been like right outside
the red zone, but they only got in the red zone twice.
I want to know how many times they got to the 30. Because for me, you get to the 30. I mean, you get close.
It's 3 or 4 times. 3 or 4 times.
They could have been on the 22 for all I know. They could have been on the 22, and that don't count as red zone. Like they were close enough that you can manufacture 5 yards, get inside that 20, kick a field goal, kick a 30, 40-yard field goal, or get to the point where you can try to kick that. But they kept getting right outside of it. And the fact that they only got in the red zone twice, again, it's the penalties. If they didn't have all those penalties,
adjustments either. They didn't make any adjustments, man. You know, not to cut the little, but they didn't make any adjustments to Jamarcus for one. And that's why I say when you hear coaches say set the tone, that's exactly what they mean. And if to the people that don't really know what that means that like the first play of the game, I'm hitting somebody in the mouth, so they already know like how the rest of the game is gonna go. You know what I'm saying? So it's like one of those things. So Marcus set the tone, right? So then you throw in having a younger quarterback. So let's just say, hey, my center is getting his ass whooped. My guard is not helping. The center's getting his ass whooped, right? You got a quarterback that now is itchy, anxiety, because now before every play, he's looking at this D lineman that keep getting in his face, right? So now you can't even take your steps. You can't take your read steps. You can't go through your progressions comfortably because your guard and your center are getting their ass kicked. You know what I mean? So you throw that on top of, okay, now all these other games, Greenfield had his way with a lot of teams. He was the driving factor in the offense, but he didn't have that this year. So now Ambrose had to actually be the one that's like, all right, I got to put us in situations, but I got to use my arm to do it because he's not going to run the ball. So they got stuck in some situations, I think, that they just weren't prepared to get out of. And hopefully they'll, bounce back and make some adjustments to where they don't be in that situation. But I think the Roosters definitely had a chance to win the game until they gave Josh Taylor too many chances. And you can see that that's a bad idea.
I want to talk about what you're talking about with the Jamarcus Henderson playing in the middle. I mean, I don't know if anybody else was watching like we were watching, but putting him in the middle, like at nose, and going against the Roosters guards and center, it really showed that those 3 players are not as quick as we would like your guards and centers to be, because Jamarcus Henderson is fast, he's quick, he has great moves, but they're like their recovery to his moves? It never happened. Anytime you put a move on them, they're done. That's it. They're not able to retrace their steps. They're not able to get back or get anything on him. And he was able to put Ambrose in a situation where it's not hard. Well, it's not easy either, but it's a little bit easier to plan and count in your head. Okay, they got a DN that's going to be coming from left to right, so I have this much time. You know how impossible it is to count when a guy is over your center? You catch the ball, that's a much quicker path. So you catch the ball and he's there. You didn't have a 1 Mississippi. You had a catch, oh my gosh, what do I do? And you don't know where to go because you don't know what the ends look like yet because it happens so much faster when he's right there in your face. And they did that to that young quarterback very early. And I was really disheartened by how bad those guards and that center played against him. I really thought, I mean, we've said it before that they have one of the better offensive lines, and now we have to reevaluate that. And I'm glad that we got to see them go against one of the better defensive linemen because that lets us understand where the talent level really is. And those guards and that center are not as agile as they should be to be playing interior linemen.
Yeah.
If you're playing if you're playing tackle, it makes sense that maybe you're not as quick or you can't get as low. And that's another thing Jamarcus Henderson had going for him is he's a little bit shorter than those guys. So they have to bend their hips. If you're a guard and you can't bend your hips, you're in the wrong position. If you're a tackle, we can have you pass setting. You can make him go around you. You don't necessarily have to bend your hips because you're not going to get a lot of cross facing all the time. But if you're a guard, you got to be able to bend your hip. You got to be able to turn and run. We got to be able to have you pull. Everybody can't have Ethan Greenfield who can run outside by himself. Sometimes you need a lineman with you. And the Roosters' offensive line obviously is not as good as we thought. We just assumed that they were because we've seen them play good before. But once you see them play against higher level talent, it kind of comes to fruition like this. And it was tough for me to see because I have very high, expectations and standards for the Roosters' offensive line. But Jamarcus Henderson really put them on notice. And now my eyes are open.
Yeah, they surprised him with that one. They definitely surprised him with the Jamarcus thing, moving him to nose guard because you think about it, just to it. Like, you know what I'm saying? It take I'll say when you're doing a defensive drill, I'll say it's supposed to take like 3 seconds to get to the quarterback, right? Like you do one move, you got one move, you give to the lineman, and you're supposed to be to the quarterback within 3 seconds. So Roosters, how you stop D lineman from doing what he was doing? You do one-step drops. One-step drops, slants. You do quick passes to where his rush isn't effective at all. But what they did was let's keep running these deep ass routes and I understand like coaches feel like they, you see stuff and you don't want to go away from it so quick, but that's how you stop aggressive linemen. That's how you stop aggressive defenses. You do quick stuff. You run screens. You run bubbles. You run stuff to where the D lineman is just rushing every play, but he's not being effective. But you don't continue to run zone read pass and like trying to throw seam routes and corner routes. Like you don't have enough time for that, and that's what they did. And they got themselves in trouble, and which led to now them getting behind. Quarterback is shook up. He did show some grit though in the late second half, throwing a touchdown or whatever, but it just wasn't enough, and it was a terrible game to come down to just that, like quarterback play on their side, because the other side had a quarterback that you can pretty much hang your hat on. So yeah. It was still a good game to watch though.
I disagree with that also. It was good to watch because we knew like
it wasn't a blowout.
But again, both teams played bad. Like you said, the Roosters had 17 penalties for 100 yards. That's just bad play. They had the fumble on the 1 yard line. Like that's just, they called a lot of bad plays offensively. And then when you looked at the Steelers, they didn't play good. Josh Taylor was very inaccurate in this game. He just happened to have that, that intangible. Hey, I'm going to get it done by any means necessary, which you love that. But when you're watching the game, it really wasn't good football. And again, I understand it's good because we saw two of the top teams and it was close, but neither team went away from this game saying, yeah, we deserved that win. We played our best. Both teams went away from that game being like, damn, if we would have done this, we'd done that. Like both teams got a lot to work on from that game. Luckily, they were playing against, a similar type of team that I feel neither one of them felt like, one of them felt like at least we got the win. A win is a win. That's what Steelers feel like. But I know they're back in the lab thinking we got to get better. And the Roosters are probably thinking we're this many plays away. We're this many plays away. If we would have done this, we'd done that. So both teams come back from this game saying, hey, it wasn't a great game, but it was a game that we can learn from. And both teams are able to learn from it. From that aspect, yeah, it's a good game. But watching the game, Nah, it was poo-poo shiesty. Like it was no good. It was no good. But yeah, I think we talked about that game enough. So we'll get out of here now, and that's the games from the week.
Hey there, fans of American football in Finland. Want to show some love and support to your favorite podcast? For just €3, you can buy us a cup of coffee and help keep our podcast running strong. But why stop at one cup? Why not support each host with a cup? Visit buymeacoffee.com and show your support today. Cheers to keeping the conversation going.
All right, that's it for this episode of American Football in Finland. Any last words before we get out of here, fellas?
So the only thing I'm going to say is I went back and I checked the stats for the Russian leaders. So I'm not going to leave you hanging.
I appreciate it.
Who do you think is the leading rusher in the league right now?
For yards or touchdowns?
For yards.
Yards, it's got to be Christian Powell.
What do you think?
Nah, it's probably Sawosty.
You think Sawosty?
Okay.
No, I think it's Theo Landers.
Christian Powell is number 2 with 481. Tom Swosty is number 3 with 454. Number 1 is Theo Landers with 517.
Leading the league. I told you.
Russian.
Because he ran 4th. Josh Taylor's got to be like 4 or 5.
Josh Taylor is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 on the list.
There goes
Landers is 1. Landers, I'll tell you touchdowns after. Landers is 1, Powell's 2, Swosty 3, Greenfield 4, Harris 5, Taylor 6.
Okay.
Now Russian touchdowns. Who do you think is number 1?
Taylor's 1.
Gotta be Taylor.
Taylor's 1 with 9. Taylor's 1 with 9. And then Powell's number 2 with 8.
Yeah.
So he's got 8 behind him.
That makes sense.
But yeah, interesting, right?
Yeah. Super interesting. But last weekend is over. So you can catch us talking about the upcoming games right here on the AFF podcast tomorrow. Make sure you subscribe, follow, like, and share on all social channels at American Football in Finland. And until next time, never forget
AFF.
We gone.
We gone.